Sound test, 1, 2. Okay, so the sound should be okay now. The sound is back. It's okay. You can hear me well. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it helps to turn on the microphone and then the sound is better. Okay, excellent. So again, now we will talk about a specific example for part 2 speaking. It's the long part of your speaking interview. Okay, the total speaking interview is about 15 minutes, and this part will take about 4 minutes of your interview. So you have 1 minute to prepare. So you have 1 minute to prepare, take notes, and you have 2 minutes to speak. Okay, so it's very important for you to practice speaking part 2 at home. We do not give presentations every day, so it's not something most people are very good at. It's very, very important, even if you have good English skills, to practice part 2 at home. You have to practice the 1 minute preparation time, so taking notes, and you have to practice speaking for 2 minutes. And I will talk about how you can practice note taking and how you can practice speaking at home very effectively a little bit later. So now let's look at part 2 speaking example, which is talk about a famous natural landmark. All right, so in the first part of the lesson, we talked about good communication. We talked about using critical thinking. We talked about using visualization. Again, all of these strategies and tips are coming from our websites, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. So you can go there, get our practice exams, get our full course, get our lesson videos. And also you can support us through Super Chat and sponsorship in this live feed. All right. So for those of you where your speaking is tomorrow, like Shri, here is some really good information for your speaking exam. All right. Let's talk about part 2. Let's talk about famous natural landmarks. You can see the full question in the stream description. I will put it up here also as we go step by step. Okay, question to everyone. What is a famous natural landmark? So what is that? What is a famous natural landmark? Okay, somebody said Mount Everest. Somebody's saying the Dead Sea. A landmark is a place that is well known to people in the area, and also in many situations well known by people around the world. Okay, Gold Temple, Sonu, is not a good example because it's a natural landmark. Okay, many students make a mistake in IELTS by missing a part of the question. If you talk about a physical landmark that's man-made, like a temple or a church or a castle, you will lose all of your marks. You have to make sure that it's a natural landmark, okay? All right, Akil, very good. You actually said the one that I'm going to talk about because it's the most famous natural landmark in my country, which is Canada. Okay, everybody knows what the most famous natural landmark in Canada is? Yeah, it's Niagara Falls, absolutely. So I am going to talk to you about Niagara Falls. That will be the topic answer for my example in part 2. So the question is asking me, talk about a natural landmark, and first talk about what it is. So my example is Niagara Falls. Okay, now I get the cue card and I have 1 minute to prepare my answers? What should I do in my 1 minute to prepare my notes? What should I do in 1 minute to prepare my notes? What's the first step? So somebody says keywords, somebody says spider diagram. The first step in good communication is not answers, it's questions, okay? So step one in your notes, so when you're beginning to prepare your notes, ask yourself some logical questions. Don't even think about answers right away. Instead, think about questions, okay? Think questions, not answers. So here, we want to think about questions for Niagara Falls. What's the first question we should ask about Niagara Falls? Yeah, I won. Thank you. So where is an important question here also, but the first question that we want to ask is what? Okay, remember critical thinking. We always want to ask, what is it, right? So question number one is, what is it? So what is Niagara Falls? Can anybody tell me what is Niagara Falls? It's a giant waterfall from Hadil. Yeah, absolutely, it's a giant waterfall. Aditya, no, it's not a swimming pool. It's not falling from 573 meters. Okay, make up a... Just keep it simple. So what is Niagara Falls? Keep it simple. Okay, let me give you an answer here. So it is the largest three waterfalls in the world. Okay, so in the 1 minute note-taking time, you don't have time to write all this down, so you will just write down a key idea like largest, okay, three waterfalls. You don't have time to write the full sentence, but you just write the notes largest three waterfalls, okay? That gives you an idea of what you're going to talk about. So it is the largest three waterfalls in the world. Question. Is this qualitative or quantitative information? So is this qualitative or quantitative answer? Awe, very good. Yeah, it's a qualitative piece of information. So is this good information? Yeah, it's some quantitative because I'm using the word three, but it's mostly qualitative, absolutely. So is this good information? Yes, yeah, it's a good start, absolutely. It's a good start to the information. Now, when I'm speaking, is it enough to say this and then talk about other ideas? So when I'm talking in my 2 minutes and I begin by, I'm going to talk about Niagara Falls, which is the three largest combined waterfalls in the world. Is this enough? No, it's not, okay? I need to think about quantitative information. We talked about this, right? Good communication means quantitative information. And I can see Akram and some other people saying, yes, you need to talk about quantitative information. So I need to explain this idea as numbers so that my listener can clearly understand what it means the largest. Okay? So largest means what? Okay, so it means that these waterfalls are each about 50 meters high, and when they're combined, they're wider than 1 kilometer. And also, we want to talk about how much water is going over these waterfalls. So, with millions of liters of water dropping every hour. Okay, so now I have good communication. So I introduced my topic that I'm going to talk about Niagara Falls. It is the largest 3 waterfalls in the world, and these 3 waterfalls are each about 50 meters high and over 1 kilometers wide when they are combined, with millions of liters of water dropping over the edge of the waterfalls every hour. Okay, this is what makes Niagara Falls the largest waterfalls in the world. I'm using qualitative information and I'm using quantitative information. So now this becomes clear for my listener about what I'm going to talk about. One of the big mistakes that students do in IELTS Speaking Part 2 is they try to answer each question on the card very quickly, and they just give a very short answer, and then their speaking is finished in 30 seconds and they don't know what to say. This is not good, okay? You have to go into details on each of those questions. It means you have to give good qualitative examples and good quantitative definitions for each of those questions, and then include some examples as well. Okay, so now that's the first step. So I've answered this, and again, when I'm taking notes, I just want to take simple notes. So I just want to write down 50 meters, 1 kilometer wide, the largest waterfalls. Okay, so when you're taking notes, ask the question in your brain, what, why, how, and use 2 or 3 words for each note. Keep it simple, okay? So Lalit, you said, I don't know how to elaborate. You can elaborate by giving both qualitative and quantitative information. Ashish, should the numbers be accurate? Again, that's a very good question. If you're asking some really good questions, don't be shy to sponsor us with a few dollars so that we can see it more clearly. Ashish, no. The answer is no. Your numbers do not have to be accurate. They just need to be close, okay? So they don't test you on whether the information is true or not. So if you say Niagara Falls is 100 meters high, or if you say it's 30 meters high, it's absolutely okay. You don't have to give the exact information. It just has to be believable and close to what the real information is. Okay? Okay, so now I can go on to the second question. Of where is it located? And notice that I already answered the why question. So I said it's because it's the largest waterfall in the world. So we talked about the why. Now, when we're talking about the where and the other questions, we're looking also at the how, all right? So you have to be careful to notice when you're answering the what, why, how questions. All right, so where is Niagara Falls located? Does anybody know where Niagara Falls is located? So B Explained says Ontario, and it says Canada. Yes, Canada, Ontario is correct. It's more specific. Can anybody be even more specific of where it's located? So it is located on the Canada and US border between the province of Ontario and the state of Does anybody know which state is on the other side of Ontario where Niagara Falls is located? Yep, B Explained said New York, absolutely. So Ontario and New York. Next to Lake Erie. I'm not sure if I got Lake Erie right, but that's okay. So next to Lake Erie. Absolutely. So that's where Niagara Falls is located. Now, we answered where it's located specifically, right? So again, we want to use as much descriptive language as possible to make it clear and visible for the audience. So they need to be able to picture and visualize what you're saying, okay? Now, what is the next question that we need to ask? Does anybody know what question we should be answering here? So what's the next question on the sheet? How do we get there? Why? When you saw it? Can everybody see the question for this part 2 in the description of the stream? Okay, so what's the next question that we're being asked? It's not asking you when you visited this. It's asking who visits this area. Okay. So here we want to answer who visits this area. So who visits Niagara Falls? Who are the people that visit Niagara Falls? Okay, Hadil says tourists. Mainly tourists, I guess. Yep, my friends. Absolutely. So yeah, if you visited Niagara Falls, then definitely you can include that tourists, including myself, have visited Niagara Falls. So, okay, Mustafa, very nice. You're adding quantitative information into your answer. Again, that's very, very important. So Mustafa says millions of tourists who like nature. So millions of tourists, including myself, who like nature have visited Niagara Falls in past years. Okay, so again, we're using quantitative information, millions of tourists. We're giving visual information, including myself, have visited Niagara Falls over the past year. So again, make sure you're using good descriptive language. What kind of grammar does this sentence include? So what types of grammar are found in this sentence? Trillions, Aditya, is a bit too much. Again, make sure that your information is believable, okay? Billions is even too much. So thousands and thousands is okay, millions is okay, billions, trillions, not okay. Mustafa says that there's a relative clause in here, who like. Absolutely, okay? And present perfect is in here. Have visited. It's not past perfect. This is present perfect. Have visited, okay? So I'm using present perfect and I'm using a relative clause for who like nature. So this is a complex sentence. We talked about this in the writing lessons yesterday and the day before. You have to use clauses like relative clauses and adjective clauses, and you have to use present tense and complex grammar for getting a high score on the IELTS exam. So make sure that you do this, okay? So millions of tourists, including myself, who like nature, have visited Niagara Falls in past years. Can I say more about the people who visit Niagara Falls? So can I say anything else about who visits Niagara Falls? Can somebody think about that? So can we say more information about who visits Niagara Falls? Researchers, citizens, one of my friends. Yes, we can, but can we go into more detail about the millions of tourists? So what kinds of tourists? So here we said people who like nature. What other people do you think visit Niagara Falls? So what kinds of people? Politicians, famous people. When do you think people go to Niagara Falls? So going to Niagara Falls is probably quite expensive for a lot of people. You have to get on an airplane, you have to go a lot of long distance. So people are saying students, okay, so students is a good idea. Can anybody else think of, so you said students, researchers. Who else? There's a couple of other types of situations where people like to go to Niagara Falls. Photographers. Okay, yes, so youngsters, and Nishant said couples. Yeah, couples. All right. So Nishan, can you tell me what you mean by couples? So when you say couples go to visit Niagara Falls, who are these couples? Okay, Saleh, very good. So you're saying honeymoon. Right? Yeah, absolutely. So maybe some of you know this, maybe some of you don't. Of course, if this is my topic for speaking, I usually would have a good idea of what I'm talking about. So I know that many people visit Niagara Falls for their honeymoon, right? Who is on a honeymoon? Who goes on a honeymoon? Boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses, Aaliyah is saying. That's great, yeah? Hipsters, Jimmy says. Who else? Newlyweds, that's right. Okay, so absolutely, go into more detail. So here we can say the full sentence. Visitors often include honeymooners who had recently married. So here I said visitors often include honeymooners who had recently married, and then I should finish this sentence. What comes in the next part of the sentence? What should I write to finish this sentence well? Okay, again, I'll give you a hint. We want to think about critical communication. So we want to think about good communication, and that starts with logical questions, right? What, why, and how. Yeah, Aaliyah says the reason, absolutely. Always think about reasons when you're giving information in IELTS or in communication, and especially in Part 2 speaking. So visitors often include honeymooners who had recently married. Why? Yeah, very good, Aaliyah, because it is romantic. So Niagara Falls and natural landmarks are considered by people to be very romantic places. So always give the reason for what you are saying. So here, this is a complete answer for the question of who visits Niagara Falls. Now you can go into more details about when you visited and what you experienced, but you need to think about this to answer that question. So who visits Niagara Falls? Millions of tourists, including myself, who like nature, have visited Niagara Falls in past years. Visitors often include honeymooners who had recently married because it is, and we can say, a very romantic place. Okay, so keeping with that natural part of language, and of course including complex language, present perfect, past perfect, and relative clauses. All right, so we've answered what it is, where it is, who goes there to visit, and why is this landmark well known? So why is this landmark well known? We've already given some answer to that information, but we can go into more detail. So let's look at that last question. All right, so why is Niagara Falls well known? Why do many people know about it? Can anybody answer this question? Why is Niagara Falls well known? Yeah, Aaliyah, you can absolutely give more details about how they travel. So it's very smart thinking. Again, you're using critical thinking of what, why, and how. Yes, Aditya, yeah, we said because. So here, if I'm repeating information, I should say, as I had mentioned, it is famous because it is the largest waterfall in the world. Okay, so a very important phrase when you're repeating some information later in your speaking is as I had mentioned, okay? So using the past perfect, quickly, easily getting some marks there. There's another reason why Niagara Falls especially is well known. Does anybody know what another reason is why it's well known? Yep, so it is very beautiful and many people go there. Okay, we've already talked about this, but it's okay to repeat some information as long as you're saying it in a different way. When we say information in a different way, like here we have the word well known, and here we have the word famous. So famous is a different way to say well known. It's a synonym. And what kind of a strategy are we using when we say the same word in different ways? So when we say the same information in different ways, what kind of strategy are we using in our communication? Yeah, Pavan, very good. It's paraphrasing, okay? So when students are doing part 2 of speaking, often they will repeat some of the information that they already talked about. This is okay. This is absolutely natural. We repeat information when we communicate. It helps our listener to understand what we're saying. What's really important is that you paraphrase the information. Don't just repeat the same words. So try to express the same idea using different words, okay? So paraphrase. So here, as I had mentioned, it is famous because it is the largest waterfall in the world. It is very beautiful. Many people visit there. Okay, and we had some other examples. If you're standing beside Niagara Falls, so I'm standing beside Niagara Falls and I'm looking at it and I say, wow, it's beautiful. Okay, what else do I feel? So what else would I feel if I'm standing right beside Niagara Falls? And here you have to use the strategy of visualizing your information. So see the information that you're talking about and feel the information that you're talking about. This is a very important strategy when you are communicating and when you're planning your ideas for part 2. So close your eyes, picture it. It's amazing, it's cool. Okay, when you close your eyes and you picture a big waterfall, okay, you see that it's beautiful, but there is also another feeling that you should get. Okay, Aditya says it's dangerous. That's kind of the right idea. What do people use when there's fast-moving water? What do people do with fast-moving waters, with big rivers? Yes, I see lots of answers, glorious, beautiful, but there's still one word that I'm looking for that's missing. Yes, there we go, Mustafa. Very good. Mustafa Coco, awesome answer. The power of nature. So when we are beside Niagara Falls or a large waterfall, when you see this in your mind, as you're talking about this in your interview, you shouldn't just get lost about the idea that it's beautiful, okay? One of the mistakes that students do often in speaking part 2 is they get one idea, like it's beautiful, Niagara Falls is beautiful, and then they get stuck on just the idea that it's beautiful. So they keep saying it's beautiful, it's glorious, it looks wonderful, it's amazing, and they keep repeating the same idea again and again. This is not good. Okay, you have to be able to give different ideas. So don't get stuck on just one idea and repeat the same idea over and over. Think about different ideas, think about the qualitative information, and think about the quantitative information. So also, the waterfalls are an incredible power of nature. Okay, so the waterfalls are an incredible power or force of nature that tourists can hear, see, and feel. Okay, so here we say, as I had mentioned, it is famous because it is the largest waterfall in the world. It is very beautiful and many visit there. Also, the waterfalls are an incredible power of nature that tourists can hear, see, and feel. Humans are attracted to power. So we're drawn to power, we're drawn to powerful things. So powerful parts of our life become well known, especially when we can share that powerful feeling, like with natural landmarks, okay? So here, now we've answered all of the questions. We maybe have spent about a minute and a half to express these ideas. A couple of important points about IELTS speaking. Number one, you don't have to speak quickly, okay? You can speak slowly as long as the information that you give is clear, accurate, and complex, okay? It's better to speak slower, more clearly, and give correct information than to talk quickly, talk about a lot of ideas, talk about different ideas that are off topic, all right? So a lot of students think you have to speak fast to get a high score in IELTS speaking. No, you do not have to speak fast. You can speak slowly, okay? So speaking fluently and speaking quickly are not the same thing. Just remember that, all right? So now that I've given the answers to all parts of the question, I can finish by summarizing these ideas. And as some of you may know, Niagara Falls is very famous because, in fact, it is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. So therefore, Niagara Falls is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Okay, so this is a nice way to summarize what I responded for the speaking part 2 question that deals with natural landmarks. Niagara Falls is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, and then finish speaking, okay? A lot of students think that you have to keep talking until the examiner stops you, okay? How many people who are watching right now think that it's a good idea to keep talking in part 2 until the examiner stops you? You're very welcome, Miha. Thank you for watching. I'll talk about that in the next lesson, Aliyah, how to deal with topics that you don't know about. So how many people think that you have to keep talking? Even if you're finished and the time is still going, you should keep talking. Should you keep talking? Yes or no? Okay, a lot of yeses and some nos. Okay, the answer is no, don't keep talking. You should practice at home talking for 1 to 2 minutes so that you can get close to the 2 minutes when you're answering the question. So practice at home so you're close to the time. But when you're finished all of your ideas and you're finished speaking for 1 minute or 2 minutes, and you've answered all of the questions, it's very important. Make sure you answer all of the questions on the card. When you finished answering all of the questions, stop talking, okay? Give a few seconds for the examiner to say, okay, thank you, now we will go to part 3, okay? The examiner doesn't know when you're going to finish or when you're not going to finish. So when you stop and you wait for a few seconds, the examiner knows that you're done and they will say, okay, now we will continue with part 3. Don't keep talking. Why is it a bad idea to keep talking in part 2 after you answered all the questions and gave all your ideas? So you answer the questions, give your ideas, and now, nobody's stopping me, I'm going to keep talking. Why is this a bad idea? So why is it a bad idea to just talk? Yeah, Vimsith, very good. You may go off topic. In fact, very often students will go off topic. So if they finished all their ideas, what happens, and we see this all the time, is students start talking about other ideas, other topics, start giving strange information, and that will actually decrease your score because now your communication is becoming unclear, okay? And it's a good chance that you're starting to make mistakes because you're stressed, you're not sure about what you should say, so you start making grammar mistakes, you start making language mistakes. It's not a good idea. Practice at home to speak for 1.5 minutes, for 2 minutes, and then when you answer the questions, stop talking. Wait 3 or 4 seconds. The examiner will say, okay, thank you, we will start part 3. Okay, so give them a chance to begin questions for part 3. Don't just keep talking. Okay, do not just keep talking. All right, one last point that I want to mention before this class is over is how you can practice this at home. So how can you practice speaking part 2 at home? What is an effective way to practice speaking part 2? What can you do? So you're at home and you're looking at part 2 IELTS questions. What can you do for good practice? All right, there are some really good answers there. So you can stand in front of a mirror and practice this. You can record yourself. That's absolutely a good way. I'll talk about that in a second. Before you record yourself, what is maybe a first step? So Turkey says talk to somebody. Yep, talking to somebody is a good idea. Build confidence. Read a book. So reading books is a good idea. So get information. Enrich your vocabulary. But we're talking specifically about part 2. So what can I do Yeah, so Aaliyah says write it down on paper. Absolutely, okay? So begin practicing for part 2 by not just speaking, but writing down your ideas. When you write down ideas, they're going to be more organized. You can make them more clear, more complex. So write down Okay, so write down your answers for part 2. Take a piece of paper and look at the questions. Use critical thinking, use quantitative thinking, not just qualitative, and write down your answers. Okay, that's a good first step. Okay, so step 1. And for step 2, many of you already recommended this. So for step 2, use your phone or computer to record your speaking. So many of you have smartphones, many of you have laptops or tablets. All of these devices have very good recording functions. Use the recording functions. So write down your answers first. That's the first way to practice. After a while, when you get more confidence and you have better skills, then you don't need to write down your answers. Then you should try without writing down your answers. But as a first step, write down your answers. As a next step, you can just do it from your mind. But in both situations, use the recorder function on your computer or your phone to record your speaking. Okay, so I have my phone, I record myself, I say, today I'm going to talk about Niagara Falls, which is a very famous natural landmark. It is the largest 3 waterfalls in the world, 50 meters tall, over a kilometer wide when it's combined. Niagara Falls is located on the border of Canada and US, between the province of Ontario and New York, next to Lake Erie. It is a drop in the continuation of the Niagara River. Millions of tourists visit there each year, including myself. Some of these tourists are newlywed couples who are on a honeymoon. They go to visit Niagara Falls because it's a very romantic place. It is well known and famous because, so I record all of this information. Now what do I do? So what do I do after I record the information on my phone? Vincent says, analyze your speaking. Hadil says, listen to yourself. Sonu says, check your mistakes. Revan says, judge yourself. Summit says, find errors. Absolutely, okay? All of those answers are great answers. Good job, everyone. Those are the answers. That's what you need to do. So listen and check yourself. Okay, so listen and check yourself. Check yourself for mistakes. Check yourself for how good you sound. Check yourself for ways to improve. So that's what you need to do. Okay, don't be shy. What a lot of people do is they record and then they record something new, and then they record something new, and then they record something new, and then they forget to listen to any of this information, and that's not a good way to learn, okay? You need feedback, you need to correct yourself, so listen and check yourself. Also, ask one of your friends to listen to it. Ask your English teacher to listen to it. So Okay, so ask others to listen and give an opinion, because remember, on the IELTS, you're talking to somebody who's interviewing you, so it's not you, okay? For you, you usually make sense, okay? If I talk to myself in a mirror, hopefully I can understand myself, but that doesn't mean somebody else understands me, okay? So ask other people to listen to your recording. Share it on WhatsApp, share it through Skype, and ask them to say, hey, can you listen to what I talk about here? And can you give me an opinion? Can you tell me if you understand what I'm talking about? Okay, so ask someone else. Don't be shy, okay? Don't be shy. IELTS is important. You need to get into university, or you need it for immigration. It's a very important part of life. No time to be shy. Ask someone else to listen to what you're saying and give their opinion. Ask them, can you understand what I'm talking about? Okay? So make sure that you do that. Okay? So now you used your phone, you recorded, you listened, you checked yourself, you ask somebody else, they give their opinion, you make corrections. What should you do next? So you made your corrections, you have a clear idea. What do you do after you have a clear idea of your mistakes and everything? So what's the next step? Okay, practice, repeat, practice, keep practicing. I1 has the best answer so far. Repeat. And if you mean by practice to repeat, then you're correct. All right. So after you get your corrections and you have another person's opinion, then re-record. So record the speaking again with the corrections. Okay. So re-record. All right, so record the same task or part 2 speaking again, okay? So record it again. It's very, very important that you record it again with the corrections, all right? You have the corrections, you record it again, all right? I can't say this enough to you, how important this step is to improve your part 2 speaking, okay? So you record it again. So 1 or A here and B here. You record it again. Okay, so what do we do next? So I used my phone, I practiced my part 2, I recorded myself, I listened to it, I corrected the mistakes, I asked other people for their opinion, they helped me correct my mistakes, I record it again, and then what do I do? So what do I do after I record this? Again, now I hopefully have a clear and correct recording with good complex language, using critical thinking, using quantitative information. What do I do next? Keep it simple. What's my next step? Bina, I think you're on to the D. Okay, Hadil, very good answer. Listen again. Yes, absolutely. Save the recording. Listen again. Okay, wait a couple days, wait 2-3 days, and listen again and try to repeat as you're listening. So aloud, while you're listening, repeat. So listen again and again and repeat aloud. Okay? It's very, very important that you're repeating the information aloud. So not just quietly, but aloud so that you can hear yourself. all right? So repeat the information again aloud, all right? So record, check for mistakes, ask others to check for mistakes, record again, listen again and again, so not just once, but more than once, and repeat what you hear aloud, okay? And then somebody gave us the next answer here is repeat the same with other questions. Okay, so when you did it for one topic, which is the natural landmark in our example, then go on to a different topic, all right? Now in IELTS, there are, for the speaking, about 4 different topics that they can ask you about, all right? So I'm going to put that up as the last point, and then I will talk about that more in our next lesson. So any questions about this before I give you the last piece of information for the lesson? Any questions about this? Okay, so all is clear. So make sure you do this practice at home. Now, IELTS Task 2 can really only ask you about 4 different kinds of information. A landmark is a place, okay? So, part 2, speaking, 4 kinds of information. 1, we just talked about this, is a place. So place, for example, Niagara Falls. Okay, so part 2 in speaking can ask me about a place. What else can it ask me about? What other kind of a topic can, yeah, okay, Akram, very nice. So you're giving us all 4. Yeah, those are the 4, and I'm going to put it up here. So it's a place, person, object, or an event. Okay. Example, sports star, object, birthday gift, and event, a national holiday. Okay, so in IELTS Part 2, there are basically 4 kinds of information they can ask you about: a place, a person, an object, or an event. All right, now each of these pieces of information has a very clear structure on how to answer it. So a place, we need to describe what it looks like, where it is, who goes there. Okay, we talked about that today. Person, we can talk about who it is, their personality, and what they do. All right. Now, I'm not going to continue with person, object, or event today, but will continue the live IELTS lessons next week, starting on Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon or 14:30 London time. I'll write that up here right now. So our next lesson will talk about part 2, how to answer questions for a person, object, and an event. Again, there are some very clear steps for answering each of these topics, all right? So I'm going to talk about that in the next lesson, which will be starting Thursday, and then we will have class on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So we'll do 3 more days of classes. Okay. I'll put the schedule up here, and I will also create some events for you online. Again, remember to sponsor these lessons through Super Chat or through sponsorship. When you give us donations, it helps us to keep these lessons going for you. Also, you can visit our websites at ahelp.com, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, for academic IELTS. Find all the videos and the full courses there, okay? Some high definition videos. So lessons will continue. On Thursday, which will be December, I'll have to figure that out in a second. So Thursday at 14:30 London time, 20 o'clock New Delhi, 22:30 Beijing, and 9:30 New York. Okay, so I'm going to continue teaching you some IELTS strategies, tips, and how to succeed with examples starting on Thursday, which will be December the 21st. Okay, at these times, so please join me again during those times, and the next lesson will be about speaking and talking about people, objects, and events, and what are effective ways to describe people, objects, and events. That will be the next lesson. We'll continue here. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me this week in the last couple of days. I hope you learned some valuable information. Again, please do visit our websites, check out the free course, check out our full course, give us sponsorship, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling and teaching you and helping you succeed in life, whether it's for immigration or for school. We really want to see everyone reach their goals, okay? You can do it. It's not impossible. We help many, many students. Just believe in yourselves. I believe in you. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful beginning to your week. Okay, bye guys. We'll see you in a few days. Thank you so, so much.